Hello, I'm Sebastian Smith, and I'm excited to present to you our research exploring the characteristics of a type of project-based learning used in Australian architectural education. We refer to it here as live projects, although there are other commonly used nomenclatures such as design build and community design. This presentation reflects research conducted for a paper titled Architectural Live Projects in Australia, a Contextual Review. This paper was authored by myself, Professor Corinne Dupree, and Dr. Julie Proff. The plan for today's presentation is to start with a definition of live projects. We'll then move on to the context of live project learning in higher education. This has helped us frame our research questions. Then I will discuss the research methodology, including using Lave and Wagner's situated learning as a theoretical framework. I'll then present the results and end with some discussion points. Architectural live projects are educational initiatives that enable architecture students and other allied fields to engage with real-world challenges and contexts through hands-on project experience. In contrast to a conventional design studio, a live project typically entails an ongoing process of negotiation with the client on factors such as project scope, timeline, financial resources, and expected deliverables. This dynamic engenders a heightened level of engagement between the design team and the client, often resulting in a more profound connection to both the client and the project itself. These projects typically involve collaboration with external partners, such as community organizations or local councils. They are designed to allow students to apply their design skills and knowledge in a practical, real-world context. Whilst there is strong evidence of their use in the post-World War II period, architectural live projects are seldom discussed in architectural scholarship until the early 2000s. By contrast, the last 20 years have seen a growth in both the volume of scholarship and the complexities of the issues being discussed. This trend highlights not only the steady interest in this specific teaching pedagogy, but also its contemporaneity. By no means unique to architectural education, this type of project-based learning is found and practiced in a wide variety of higher education disciplines, including business, education, environmental science, health science, and creative industries, to name but a few. The ubiquity of this teaching method likely demonstrates the universal benefits for students across disciplines. Next, I'd like to frame the research with a brief discussion on the context in which it's being situated. The marketisation of Australian and other global higher education systems has been a controversial topic for many years. One of the main issues arising from this paradigm is that universities are increasingly incentivised to provide an educational service for students. In this way, students become consumers of an educational product. Both Bunce and Tomlinson note that this commercialization leads to students prioritizing immediate and tangible benefits, such as individual grades or job prospects. Students feel entitled to a specific level of service and value for their investment. In terms of architecture, Mayora's 2019 report on architectural education in Australia and New Zealand found that competition to recruit students had resulted in a shift in power towards students, with reputation and funding being sensitive to informal and formal reviews. Moreover, in the same report, academics are critical of the extent to which universities rely on keeping students happy to maintain their income. The increasing marketization of higher education continues to change the relationship between educator, student, and institution, affecting the motives and mode in which education is delivered. In 2019, Dawn Bennett stated, "The question of how to prepare higher education students for employment is at the forefront of higher education. Recent structural funding changes to the Australian higher education system under the 2020 Job Ready Graduate Package continues this trend of incentivising education that produces market-ready graduates." We propose live projects can address this paradigm in two ways. Firstly, by increasing active participation. Our research suggests that live projects can shift the focus from a transactional service to an emphasis on active learning. When students actively participate in the learning process and take a more hands-on role, it empowers students to take ownership as they are tasked with more responsibility for their own learning outcomes. This contrasts with the passive consumerist approach, wherein students are treated as inactive recipients of education with little input into the learning process itself. Secondly, our research demonstrates that live project learning provides opportunities for students to interact and collaborate with others, which can enhance the social aspect of their education and provide cherished employability skills. By working on projects with others, students can develop valuable teamwork, leadership, and communication skills. Furthermore, if the project is situated in an authentic context, this type of project can also help students' sense of pre-professional identity. With this in mind, our paper aimed to explore the characteristics of Australian live projects as a teaching model and what we can learn from it. This paper investigated live projects as a form of social and contextual learning, a community of practice, co-constructed knowledge, and professional identity. To examine this, we sought the perspective of educators teaching live projects in Australia's 22 accredited architecture schools. We used a mixed approach questionnaire with open-ended, qualitative, and closed-ended questions. This mix balanced the desire for quantitative data and detailed participant responses. The questionnaire was designed to gather information regarding 1. The extent and type of live projects being practiced in Australia, including things like group size, student experience, operational parameters, collaboration, funding, client times, duration, outputs, and learning outcomes. The second section sought live project educators' perspectives, including their motives, experience, engagement in scholarship, challenges, and future prospects. Following a snowball process, the questionnaire was distributed to the institution's head of school via email, introducing the topic and requesting the questionnaire be distributed to members of their architectural staff. We had replies from 11 live project educators representing 7 of the 22 accredited universities in Australia. The questionnaire took an average of 63 minutes to complete. In developing both the questionnaire and its analysis, we used Leib and Wagner's situated learning as a framework. Situated learning is a theory that emphasizes the importance of learning within the context in which it will later be used. Accordingly, learning is not just the acquisition of information, but a process of becoming a member of a community of practice through active participation in the context in which the knowledge and skill will be used. Learning is said to be situated in the social and cultural norms of that community, as well as the physical environment. Authentic activities that are relevant to the learner's experience and goals provide a more effective learning experience. Much like live project learning, this theory also emphasizes the importance of collaboration with others and real-world experiences as key elements of the learning process. Using thematic analysis, the results were categorized into 6 sections: live project characteristics, context, active participation, authentic activities, collaboration, and professional identity. Starting with general characteristics, the results indicated some commonalities within a wide variety of live projects, including group size, participant experience level, duration, output, budget, and client type. For example, 73% noted a group size between 1 and 30 students, with 45% reporting a group size of just 11 to 20 students. Regarding student experience level, 63% were either in their last year of undergraduate study or in their master's. By contrast, only 1 respondent said they taught live projects to first-year students. The results indicated that live projects could run for several weeks, 28%, to multiple years, 8%, with the majority, 36%, running for a semester or trimester. In terms of outputs, 36% reported built outputs, 41 propositional outputs, i.e. site analysis, community consultation, concept designs, or design reports, and 18% were full scope projects with both a built and propositional outputs. 70% of the projects had a budget between 0 and 50,000 Australian dollars, 25% of which fell in the $15,000 to $50,000 bracket. Only 13% of projects had a budget higher than $50,000. The source of this funding was also widespread and included income from the community and clients, 27%, and external grants, 23%. The type of live project clients included community groups, 33%, NGOs or social enterprise groups, 29%, public sector, 25%, and private, 13%. No commercial clients were reported. Live projects also tended to operate within existing curricular frameworks, 76%, with 3 respondents noting projects were either run as paid or unpaid voluntary courses. In terms of context, Leib and Wagner suggest that learning takes place within the context in which it will later be used. Beyond the immediate setting of instructional environments, Lave and Wagner expand on the notion of context to include the social and cultural structure and norms of the community in which that learning takes place. The questionnaire respondents suggested that the instructional environments used are similar to a typical studio with some additional fieldwork. Furthermore, as discussed, 76% of live projects are run within existing university frameworks and therefore maintain a student-teacher dynamic typical of other learning methods, such as the studio. When asked, does this environment change the students' approach towards the project? Most speak of the social and cultural structure of the project as motivating or engaging. One can therefore interpret these results by suggesting that the physical space or direct instructional environment is not the primary consideration for live project educators. Instead, educators aim to create and therefore value a fertile social and cultural environment more. More than just an understanding of context, Lave and Wagner emphasize the importance of active participation within that context. In this way, learning is seen as a social process that involves active participation in a community of practice, where individuals share common goals, practices, and ownership. Lave and Wagner describe this as legitimate peripheral participation. In this regard, the questionnaire results suggest that project ownership is typically shared, including intellectual property and formal acknowledgement. However, when asked who bears responsibility, the respondents suggest educators are. This aligns with the response to the question, how do you manage student and client communication interaction? Here, the results suggested that many educators still prefer to maintain a degree of client control. Situated learning theory suggests learning is more effective when it is based on authentic, real-world situations that are relevant to the learner's experience and professional goals. Authentic activity allows learners to develop a deeper understanding of the culture and practices of the community and to see the relevance of their new knowledge and skills. To this end, the educators themselves can be viewed as authentic. The results suggest that live project educators have a high level of industry experience. 42% had 5 or more years of industry experience. This reflects the need for what Lave and Wagner call old-timers, and likely increases the students' perceptions of the activity being authentic. Furthermore, when asked what motivates students to participate in live projects, the respondents rated exposure to real clients the highest. The authentic nature of a real client clearly motivates students. Unlike a typical studio where they work ostensibly for themselves, a real client shifts the focus of the activity into the real world, with all the challenges and learning that entails. Situated learning theory notes that effective learning often involves meaningful collaboration with others, such as mentors, peers, and experts. These collaborations provide a steady stream of feedback, guidance, and support. According to Lave and Wagner, the community of practice self-governs the social and cultural norms by which it operates, and, by collaborating in this community, novices learn to recognize what is valued. The results of our questionnaire suggest that educators also recognize this, with 60% of respondents noting interdisciplinary collaboration with urban planning, tourism, engineering, construction management, interior design, industrial design, and other creative fields. Moreover, 50% of respondents regularly collaborate with external consultants, with a further 40% sometimes collaborating. Consultants included local government, engineers, and external architecture firms. In other questionnaire answers, educators highlighted the value of teamwork. When asked, how do you assess the success of live projects, 80% suggested the team dynamic. Furthermore, when asked, what role do you think live projects play in student employability, many noted the acquisition of soft skills, such as the non-technical skill of collaboration, resilience, leadership, and empathy. According to Lave and Wagner, identity is not a fixed or predetermined characteristic of an individual, but rather an emergent property of their participation in social contexts. As individuals engage in and contribute to a community of practice, they develop a sense of belonging and identity that is shaped by their experiences and interactions within that community. In this sense, identity is seen as a dynamic and fluid aspect of social participation rather than a static characteristic of an individual. Educators expressed that live project settings engenders a sense of professional identity amongst participants. Moreover, the social and multidisciplinary nature of these types of projects is the primary reason. As discussed by multiple scholars, including Denise Jackson and Michael Tomlinson, professional identity is a key component in employability and closely aligns with Leib and Wagner's assertions that collaboration facilitates this type of learning. Finally, I'd like to discuss the potential implications of this research. Typically, a design studio fits neatly into a well-considered curriculum. Factors such as design brief, timescales, and assessment are predetermined to suit predictable and repeatable learning outcomes. Furthermore, this type of teaching can be scaled to suit large cohorts of students. For this to work, it requires a certain level of inbuilt rigidity. By contrast, our results indicated that the mode of teaching live projects in Australia is diverse. There was a wide variety of outputs, timescales, and budgets reported. This is likely indicating flexibility inherent in this teaching mode. Constraints such as time or budget are instead leveraged into meaningful learning opportunities. When compared to a typical design studio, live projects, like real-life projects, tend to evolve with the changing needs of the client or site or community in which it is situated. Continuous negotiation with the client and other stakeholders can change deliverables, goals, and timelines. Live projects are embedded with what Harris, Watt, and Contrell describe as the liveliness of real-world engagement. Consequently, there is always a level of uncertainty that requires flexibility and adaptability. This is a significant point of difference between the two teaching modes and worthy of further research. In a classic design studio, a client brief is introduced at the beginning of the project. Using this, a student works on the project until finally an output is produced. This output normally represents the individual's work and constitutes a significant portion of their grade. In this way, outcomes are orientated towards the student's singular efforts and judged by a predetermined marking rubric. By contrast, the output of a live project is ultimately judged by the client, community, or user group and has very little to do with the predetermined institutional frameworks. This output reorientation directly challenges the individualistic student as consumer paradigm. Furthermore, the mode of operation is more akin to the professional realities of practicing architecture. Having said this, many live project educators also caution against mimicking professional practice too closely. Furthermore, there was no indication that educators used either the physical environment or relational hierarchies of commercial architecture firms. This result is surprising given that so much of a live project success as an educational model rests on the authenticity of its context. There may, therefore, be a conflict with Leib and Wagner's notion of legitimate peripheral participation and its foundation in the apprenticeship model. Instead, it seemed educators take elements of professional practice to suit their learning objectives. One could therefore question the authenticity of this practice. If, in professional practice, there is, for example, an element of boredom or a different relational dynamic between an employee and a boss, do these two not constitute genuine elements of legitimate peripheral participation? I believe there is room for further research into what elements are used and what elements are rejected. To finish, we'd like to thank you for listening to this presentation, and we look forward to hearing your comments.